All right, hey folks, Brian here from sunny Dallas, Texas. Starting to get warm for sure. Too warm, and it's going to be unbearable pretty soon. But I want to talk to you today about an important topic. From time to time while I'm riding, I'm just like, something comes into my brain and just says, hey, I need to make a video about this, because sometimes you just don't think about all these different things. And today's topic is going to deal with tire pressure. I think tire pressure is a huge deal. So what made me think of that is the other day, I've had my bike since December of 2021, and actually I've put like 700 miles on it. I mean, I don't ride it every day, but I ride it when it's sunny and it's pretty. And so I ride it a fair amount. I think 700 miles in 4 months or something is for 5 months is, a lot to ride, in the city. Just for trips and journeys, and running to the grocery store and having fun, and taking it out in the evening time and running the dog. But tire pressure, so let me just talk to you about tire pressure. It's the lifeline of your vehicle, car, motorcycle, e-bike, bicycle, depending on how high you have it and how low tire pressure you have it. Higher tire pressure is going to give you better fuel economy, battery life. You're going to expend less energy on a bicycle to have the tire pressure up, but also too, you're going to benefit in some scenarios with lower tire pressure. So I was running probably about 20 in my front tire, and I don't really know, but in my rear it's probably close to 20. That's about where the firmness, where it's still pretty hard. And you're going to get fairly good mileage. But I was like, Brian, you need to lower your tire pressure down. I've got the factory suspension for 2022. Why am I drawing the Fast Ace fork and the Fast Ace rear shock? I've played around pretty extensively with my suspension settings. It's very limited. I've lowered. I like more rebound. Slower rebound, but I've had to go softer on the compression to try to get lower bump absorption. That's where this bike suffers. It's riding over small hard edge bumps. It's very jolty, and if you sit down, it's hard on your back and your butt, and already these seats are not that comfortable. I think just a little bit more comfortable than the earlier versions of this bike, but still. So I was like, man, I kind of want to soften it, because I'm not always standing on this bike, and I'm just putting around it usually about 20-25 miles an hour. So I jumped off the bike and I put my car key into the little stem, took the cap off, and dropped it down. And I've already measured it. This is my electronic digital tire pressure gauge. If you have just one that has a little thing that pops out the back, that's perfectly well too. But check your tire pressure. So I released some tire pressure, and I bumped it down to about 15.7, and I could actually even go lower than that. I think about 14. We have to keep in mind that we don't have wheel locks or tire locks on these. So the tire, if you lower your tire pressure in the tube down, your tire can spin, and also too, your inner tube can spin. So the negative part about the tire spinning is not that big a deal, as long as it's not greased up and spinning while you're sitting there. But the inner tube in there, if that happens to spin, you'll tear off your stem. Your stem is where you put air in it, and if that spins, it'll tear a little tear into the side of the stem and underneath, inside the tire, and you'll get a flat. You can go tubeless on these tires. I've never really considered it on this because it's just not an urgency. I'm not having problems with flats, but tubeless, some tubeless tape and some tubeless sealant from your bike store, and lower about a quarter of a pound from the inner tube weight, front and rear. So probably close to maybe 2 pounds, pound and a half weight drop. But yeah, so 15.7 is what I'm running. I could even lower it down, maybe 13.5, 14, and get a little bit more, because your tires are, again, I split myself, or cut myself off. Your tires are your connection path to the surface. So if you don't have a good connection to the surface of the ground, then you're going to not have as well control. It's going to be a more harsh ride. You could fall. If you're too low on tire pressure, your tire will flex and kind of come out from underneath you. So you got to use common sense, and a good way to tell if you just don't have one of these, you didn't bring it with you on the trail, or you just don't have one and you have a pump tire, tire puts air in your tire or a compressor and you just don't have an idea, you can come quickly push on it. And I've lowered my tire pressure front and rear, so I'm getting a little more push in. Hopefully you can see that. It's not much, but I could even go lower. Maybe, you know, 13 is about probably what I would want to go, is low on the front and the rear. But let's understand that when you're on the trails, and some of you people in Nevada and Colorado and Arizona that have way more cool trails and access to things than I do here in Dallas, if you're riding on gravel and rocks and you're going up steep inclines, or you're riding in sand or deep dirt or mud, lower your tire pressure down, because you're going to get a flatter contact patch instead of it being a round tire and you riding on, depending on how you're leaning, you're ride a lot more on a flat spot of the tire. You don't want to go too flat, because then that can, damage your tire, your flat spot, or your sidewall, excuse me. Possibly damage your tires and cause you to lose control. But play around. If you're going on the street and you're riding 20 miles one way to go get some food and 20 miles back just to enjoy your e-bike, your Sur Ron, and you want to get maximum battery economy, then put the tire pressure up maybe to 22. Then you just don't need any. You may want just a little give, but you want far less give, so your tires are rolling that much easier. So just keep that in mind, that tire pressure plays a huge role. So from day to day, if you're riding one area and you're riding in the trails all day, man, lower that tire pressure down. You can get away without having to buy $1,700 wheels and rims and hubs, by maybe sticking with more of a factory tire. Maybe not the factory tire, but going with a different tire, but it's not as wide, which adds more weight. It's just going to slow you down. But lower your tire pressure down, and you can get away with your cheap, tires that come on here, which I actually like. I've never had a complaint since I put this Shinko 244 on the back, and I'm running the front factory tire on the front. I ride this on the grass and the concrete and the gravel and the dirt. I jump it, I slide it, I do everything. I never once, since I've run this tire combination, have I been like, man, I bought a poor choice in tires. Or, man, I wish I had, some $60 front and rear motocross tires on here. If I was riding on a motocross track, yeah, I mean, maybe, maybe you need that if that's all you're doing. But you don't necessarily need that. So other than that, that's the video. Just play around with your tire pressure and keep that in mind. You raise it up, you're going to get better battery life. You lower it down, you're going to suffer a little bit of battery life, but you're going to get more traction. But be smart, don't go too crazy, and keep an eye on your stem if you want to. In the best scenario, you could loosen that nut that holds your stem straight up and down. And if you feel like you've lowered it down too much and you see your stem, start to angle a little bit, that's showing that your tube is trying to spin. So that's my best recommendation. But I would say that it's probably not going to spin at 13 or 14 unless you're a 72 volt battery and some crazy controller on there, and you're accelerating, in the blink of an eyeball to 50 miles an hour. But other than that, thanks for viewing. I won't make the video any longer. Hope you enjoyed it, and share the content if you want to, and hopefully you learned something, and people can tell me things that I can learn too. So I appreciate it. Bye-bye.